So just to kick us off, can you just give us a little background on who you are and why you're here today?
Sure. My name is Trent Thompson. I'm a VP Creative Director at BBDO in Toronto. I am here because it is a decided conversation about sort of doing a bit of a refocus on sort of the data-inspired creativity and that side of things at BBDO. So it's something that we're very excited about. It's something that I've come up through, so I'm excited to sort of get into it.
Great.
Yeah.
And is this your first time at a
DMA
THEN Conference?
It is. Scott's told me to be here a few times.
You have to be here.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing as some of the biggest issues going into 2019 with your clients right now. Just name one.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Just
I
kidding.
think one of the biggest things is as much data as we're talking about, the unification is what I'm seeing as a big challenge. We have third party that we can sort of glean what we want, but it's the first party data that we're not necessarily seeing all the time. Some of it is housed in different silos through lines of business or whatever, but actually getting that unification, I think, is where we're actually going to hopefully see sort of those quantum leaps, for lack of another phrase.
And now getting that unification, you see that evolving with new tech tools and MarTech solutions?
I think so. I think so. I think it's also, as a lot of the holding, part of the Omnicom group, the holding company solution is something that is being talked about a lot with the WPP work, et cetera. But I think a lot of companies, clients specifically, are starting to see the value of that kind of unification and the communication between silos and lines of business, et cetera, to actually have that continuity so that people can start speaking across platforms in order to cross-sell and upsell and use the data they've got to drive more business and more sales, which is part of what I'm passionate about, is creative ideas that will actually bring that stuff into light, to actually connect consumer journeys and make that something that is so strong, because it's such a powerful tool. And I don't think we're using it to the extent that we should be.
Right. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, you see a lot of that at agencies and clients across the board right now.
Oh, for sure.
So talk to me a little bit about what are you really excited about for next year?
I think what I'm most excited about is getting into the trenches on some of the customer journey work. Specifically, some of my clients are starting to talk about that and starting to see the value of that and starting to really explore what does it look like from sort of upper to lower funnel. But there isn't enough of that kind of through the line thinking. Those conversations are starting. So I think that's what I'm very excited about, is to see the thread of that customer journey, that idea that goes through the journey from the awareness online video or film piece to the conversion retargeting. I think that's just what I'm very excited about, and we're starting to talk about that more. Maybe a little late to the game, but we're starting to talk about it more, and I think we're starting to going to see some great stuff.
Great. So having IBM here, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with AI, or where you see AI coming into play next year or over the next few years?
Specifically, one of the great cases this year is obviously the Pedigree, the selfie sticks. And I know a lot of AI work went into sort of creating the work around that and creating that app and making it as rich an experience as it is. I think that the more we can bring that into the work we do and actually creating some of that data modeling, especially around targeting and segmentation, I think that's where we're going to see some really incredible steps forward. And I think with companies like IBM sort of leading that charge on the around AI, I think the use of it is going to be very powerful.
So talk to me a little bit about when you're raising your voice with them and talking to them about it. How are you pitching data-driven creative, and how are you kind of getting them on board?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for, again, my colleagues on the creative side of things, they hear data and they think of that clinical kind of programmatic stuff. And there's a great deal of value in that, especially as far as efficiency and that sort of the value of the dollar. But I think what I always challenge is the use of data to inform ideas, to inform targeting, to inform those journeys. That's the data that I find so rich and so powerful. And I don't think people think of it all as that sense. As a lot of creatives I talk to, and I've talked to some of the classes back in Canada at Humber College and Seneca and Brock about the fact that data is not the enemy. Data is not, programmatic is not something that is just going to sort of take the human side of things out of the equation. Data will inform how we move our industry and our practice and our ideas into a space that's going to have more conversion and frankly have more relevance. And I think that's where a lot of that conversation is happening, is talking about the value of data is such a big word. And I mean, speaking about where that goes and how it is and those different sort of houses that it can live in. I think that's what a lot of my conversations are, is sort of figuring out and informing people as to where data is important and is extremely valuable. Because I don't think it's always given the due it's deserved, especially in the creative realm.
Right. And now you judged the Echo Awards this year,
did.
correct? How did that go? What did you think of
great.
the work overall?
It was really, there was some really interesting stuff. I think having judged a few shows, this is my second year judging the Echoes, and I think this year there was a lot more kind of use of data, and it was across different things. So there was, again, I talked about the segmentation, I talked about some of the AI use, and I think there are a lot of different entries addressing different pieces of that. And some of the best ones are the ones that sort of address several of those. I saw a little bit more of that this year, which is really exciting, and I'm really hoping to judge next year. And really excited about what that'll bring sort of in the next couple of years.
Great. Okay. So last question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Oh, God. My clients. That's the truth. I am a problem solver. I think coming up through the direct and the digital space, direct specifically, business problems are the things that drive my thinking. And it's when I get to one that I think an idea or a campaign or an initiative that we have, I think is going to solve. If it doesn't solve it, that's what grinds my gears and makes me uncomfortable. That's the stuff that makes me want to rethink it. And again, it's that optimization thing that we've kind of come up through, but it's when we don't hit it the first time. That keeps me up at night. Also, the future keeps me up at night because there's so much that's changing, and it's shows like this, and it's the work that we've seen, and it's companies like IBM that are bringing that forward.
So with all the change in the future, I know I said that was the last question, but you made me think of another one. But with all the changes coming, how do you prep your team? How do you make sure they're ahead of the curve and ahead of other agencies?
That's a great question. I think it is that breadth of thinking. It's sort of, there is kind of that pursuit of the idea, the pursuit of that sort of creative excellence, but a big part of what I preach to my teams is really looking at the problem, getting into the client's business, understanding that. And when you understand that, it's sometimes better than the clients themselves because they're focused on such a piece of it. But if you can see the breadth of it and understand how you can address that problem from different sides, I think that's what I try to inspire people, is try to think about the business, think about why they're asking what they're asking, and how you can address it in a way that they're not expecting you to address it.
Great. Okay.
Great.
All set. Thank
Awesome.
you again very much.
Thank you.